If every major country on earth is drowning in debt, then who is getting rich from it? The United States owes over $36 trillion. Japan owes $10 trillion. China owes $14 trillion. Europe is buried. Emerging markets are suffocating. Every government, every economy, every system. So here's the question nobody ever answers. If everyone is in debt at the same time, who is the creditor? Because debt doesn't exist in a vacuum. Every debt has an owner. Every liability has a counterparty. When you owe money, there's a bank. When a company issues bonds, there are investors. But when the entire planet owes money simultaneously, who exactly are we paying? The answer is not what you've been told. And once you see it, you'll never look at money the same way again. Because the truth is far more disturbing than a number on a balance sheet. The debt isn't real in the way you think it is. The creditor isn't who you think it is. And the bill is being paid, right now, by people who don't even realize it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand who really owns the world's debt, why it can never be repaid, and why the system only works as long as you don't notice what's happening. Let's start with the scale of the problem. Global debt, government, corporate, and household combined, is now over $300 trillion. That's not a typo. $300 trillion. Global GDP, everything the world produces in a year, is about $100 trillion, meaning the world owes 3 times more than it produces annually. Government debt alone is over $90 trillion. And here's the first red flag. When you add up all the supposed creditors, countries, banks, investors, institutions, the numbers don't line up the way they should, because the same entities lending money are also drowning in debt themselves. Japan is one of the largest holders of U.S. debt. Japan also has the highest debt-to-GDP ratio in the developed world. China holds U.S. treasuries. China's own debt problem is so large it doesn't even fully report it. It's like 2 people in deep water, each holding the other up, pretending one of them is safe. That only works until one lets go. Now let's talk about the institutions everyone points to. Central banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan. These institutions hold trillions in government debt. But here's where the story turns strange. Central banks don't earn money the way you do. They don't save. They don't produce. They create money. When governments issue bonds, central banks buy them using money that did not exist before the transaction. No vault, no gold. No savings, just digits added to a screen. The government spends that money. The central bank holds the bond. When the bond matures, the government pays interest, which the central bank then sends back to the government. It's a closed loop. The government is borrowing from itself, using a financial structure to make it look legitimate. So if governments owe money, and central banks create the money to buy that debt, who is the debt really owed to? We're getting closer. Now we have to talk about something most people are never taught. How money actually comes into existence. When you deposit money into a bank, it doesn't sit there. The bank is allowed to lend most of it out. And here's the key point. When a bank makes a loan, it doesn't give someone existing money. It creates new money at the moment of lending. The loan becomes money. The debt becomes currency. This is why debt can exceed the money supply, because money is debt. Every dollar in your account exists because someone, somewhere, owes $1 plus interest. Now apply that to government debt. When banks buy government bonds, they often do so with money that did not exist moments earlier. The debt creates the money, so the creditor isn't a person, it isn't a country. It's the money creation system itself, a system that expands only by creating more debt, and collapses if that debt ever stops growing. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable part of this entire story. Because there is one creditor above all others. You. Not because you consciously lent money to the government, but because you hold the currency, and that makes you the final absorber of the cost. Here's how it works. Governments know they can't repay their debts through taxes alone. They know cutting spending would cause political collapse. So they use the only tool left, inflation. Inflation isn't an accident. It isn't a mystery. It isn't temporary. It's a repayment mechanism. When a government owes trillions due decades from now, it doesn't need to pay it back in today's dollars. It pays it back in cheaper dollars. Dollars worth less, dollars that buy less, dollars diluted by time. Who absorbs that loss? Everyone holding the currency, savers, workers, retirees, the middle class. Your purchasing power is slowly transferred to service debt you never voted on. That's why your grandparents bought houses for prices that now sound impossible. That's why wages never seem to catch up. That's why life feels harder even when productivity is higher. You are the creditor, being repaid in devalued money. Now here's the part almost nobody understands. The debt can never be repaid. Not won't, can't. Because in a debt-based monetary system, if all debts were paid off, there would be no money. Debt creates money. Eliminate the debt, eliminate the currency. On top of that, debt grows exponentially through interest. While economies grow slowly, unevenly, and sometimes not at all, the math never works. History proves this again and again. Rome debased its currency. Weimar Germany printed. Zimbabwe collapsed. Venezuela imploded. Different eras, same pattern. Debt becomes unpayable. Money printing accelerates. Currency loses trust. The public pays. The creditor is always the population. But today's version is worse because it's invisible. No wheelbarrows of cash, no obvious coin debasement, just numbers on screens, technical language, monetary policy meetings. And most people don't realize what's happening until the damage is already done. So who benefits? Those closest to money creation. Banks, governments, large institutions, asset holders. New money flows to them first. By the time it reaches workers, prices have already risen. This is how wealth transfers upward without a single law being passed. And this is why the system only works as long as people believe in it. Currencies don't collapse gradually. They collapse when belief breaks. One day everything works. The next day, nothing does. History shows this over and over again. And right now, we're seeing early warning signs everywhere. Central banks buying record amounts of gold, countries settling trade outside the dollar, trust in institutions collapsing, inflation expectations becoming unstable. These are not coincidences. They are symptoms. So let's answer the question. If everyone is in debt, who is the creditor? The uncomfortable truth is no one and everyone. The debt is a collective illusion we all participate in, a system that feeds on confidence and collapses when belief fades. But in practical terms, you are the creditor. Every time prices rise, every time savings buy less, every time your future feels smaller than it should, you're paying. And the scariest part? There is no painless exit. Paying it off destroys the economy. Default destroys markets. Inflation destroys purchasing power. The only question left is who pays the price when the system finally breaks. And history is very clear about that. If this video changed the way you see money, if it made something click that never quite made sense before, subscribe. Not because this channel predicts the future, but because understanding the system before it breaks is the only real advantage left. Because when belief cracks, it doesn't announce itself. It just happens. And the people who understand the system early are never the ones caught off guard. Stay sharp.